Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey, welcome yet again. It happens to be Wednesday, September 16th, on a cool morning here in Pittsburgh. I've been sitting here trying to do something that was a challenge posed by the Saturday New York Times, which was describe your life now in 6 words. And this is based on a supposed story written by Ernest Hemingway. Whether that's true or not, who knows? But it is a story that is only 6 words long. And it's a doozy. So listen to what you can do in 6 words. For sale, colon, baby shoes, comma, never worn. Wow. I mean, that, yeah, in that it lies, every time I've read that a few times, and every time my heart just sinks. For sale, baby shoes, never worn. So, not that we're going to do better than that, but I've been sitting here trying to come up with one, and the Times printed some that people sent in, trying to describe their lives, 6 words at a time. And, they range from just the, totally descriptive that we can all relate to. Here's one. Read every book in the house. Or these, here's somebody looking for a silver lining, an optimistic turn. Numbers rise, but sun does too. I've been trying to come up with one. Because what's in my head of late is, our human need for nostalgia. I think it is. All through my life, that seems to be, people talking about the good old days, our airbrushed memories of what life was when we were young. Now, I suppose it had never occurred to me that that's not the case for some. So I've been trying to think, how in 6 words do you say that this is our children's good old days? People of my age, talking about the 50s, as like some wonderful time. Well, yeah, if you were a certain person in a certain place, in a certain skin, I don't know. But 6 words, and you think, how can you do anything? And then you think of that. For sale. Baby shoes. Never worn. Here are a few more from people who sent them in. And this one I relate to, and I've said as much. Avoiding death, but certainly not living. Here's another. These two take on big issues in 6 words. 1, this is what time looks like. And 2, the world has never felt smaller. And, that can be taken on so many levels, that one. The confines of our homes, if we're stuck in them, or the fact that the entire world is all living the same nightmare of pandemic. I mean, there's so many ways that person, nailed it. The world has never felt smaller. And here's one that made me laugh because I've done it. Cleaned Lysol container with Lysol wipe. Yeah, there it is. There's our life right now. Anyway, I've been wanting to share those with you. If that sets any of you off on an effort to condense your reality right now into 6 words, it's something to do, which is something that some of us are looking for in these times. Other people have way too much to do. Some woman, speaking of that, posted who had been on, I don't know, I think she was on CNN yesterday as one of their, who knows, expert on something or other. And so she posted a screenshot of her head, her face, on CNN, talking, responding to something. You see the banner on the bottom. And then she posted a picture right next to it that was taken by somebody else in her house that showed her where she was sitting and the room she was in and the state of the room and the state of her. And it was so wonderful because that woman who looked so composed on CNN was in fact in this living room that was strewn with primary colored plastic children's toys all over the floor. She was sitting on a chair, but with a makeshift kind of a desk where she'd put her computer so that she could be seen, because she was just had to manufacture this studio herself. She's wearing shorts and flip-flops, and there she is. She's in her home, clearly a mother with young children, working, being on national television, but having all of this other responsibility. And I know that picture of what her life really looked like, as opposed to just what appeared on CNN from her, just her shoulders and head, that this was a woman, like so many others, juggling so much stuff in her life. So, let me see. Well, I said life, so what does that make me think of? Death! Let's do that obit I said that I had wanted to get to yesterday and never got around to, and had for me a surprising Pittsburgh connection. I'm sure many of you already know it, but I hadn't. I'd heard of this guy, but really didn't know much about him. He was known by a lot of, folks because of the media as Murph the Surf, Jack Murphy. And he was known not because he was an exemplary character. No, he was known in his life because of his criminal history and because of the audacity and even stupidity at the same time of that history, and because he was handsome. And even it shows that always media are drawn to people who just embody a good story. So Jack Murphy, who with two other characters pulled off the biggest jewel heist in New York City history. He and his pals, he was 27 years old, and he and his pals had just seen this movie that I've seen before. It's called Top Copy, and it's about a plot to steal this jeweled and crusted dagger from a palace in Istanbul. And so these three 20-somethings see that movie and they start thinking, hey, let's go steal some jewelry. And they ended up breaking into the American Museum of Natural History in New York City and making off with a sapphire larger than a golf ball, which was known as the Star of India, and a whole bunch of other gems. So that's the beginning of the story of Murph the Surf. These three had not planned this all that well. They were captured 2 days later. According to the New York Times obit, they had left a trail of amateurish clues and were, easily apprehended by New York City detectives. And but the jewels, most of them, were not with them. And in fact, they had been stashed in Biscayne Bay in waterproof bags. So that is where they were. So Murph the Surf was not somebody whose word you could believe. So you can see that in doing this obituary, they had to keep saying, well, it is said that, or, where he was born or where he lived, everything is up in the air because he claimed all kinds of things that were, who knows, maybe true, maybe not, maybe sort of true. Well, as the Times put it, by his own account, he had been a concert violinist with the Pittsburgh Symphony at 18 years of age. Now, I think that's probably pretty easily checked, and I doubt whether that's true, although apparently he played the violin and pretty well, and he was in Pittsburgh when he was 18 years old. He happened to be a pretty dang good athlete at McKeesport High School. And he won a tennis championship there, in fact, and was offered a scholarship to Pitt. So he went off to Pitt, I guess. When he wasn't studying, he was playing at the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra. He goes off to Pitt, and he drops out within months because he didn't like the school work. He hitchhiked down to Miami, and he, just started doing what he did for most of his life. Finding odd jobs, scuba diving, playing tennis, dancing, yada, yada, yada. He became a stunt diver. Just a lot of things. Surfboarder. Let me see. He won the 62 Daytona Beach, Florida surfing championship. But by the time he's 26, he's breaking into the American Museum of Natural History and stealing the Star of India. This is a guy who by 26 had crammed a lot of stuff into his life. And what happened to him, and I think it's because he was such a raconteur, making up stories, that, the media fell in love with him. And they portrayed him as a kind of, folk hero, this great character. And, of course, because he was good looking. The media played down one aspect of his life, which is just stunning. Because I can see where, a jewel theft, big deal, didn't hurt anybody, blah, blah, blah. But of all the time he spent in prison, he spent very little for the jewel theft. He spent a lot more time in prison, should have been more than he did, for the brutal murder of 2 women. And somehow that never dampened media's love of this guy. So I'm a little confused because in 1964 was the jewel theft. I don't think he served more than a few years, and then he gets out, and in 1967, he kills 2, he and a Miami thug, according to the obit, meet these 2 women, 2 secretaries, who were they were not good girls. They had, in fact, stolen $500,000 in securities from a California brokerage house where they worked. And somehow Murph the Surf and his buddy hook up with them, and then they kill them. And according to the Times, the women were bludgeoned and hacked to death. Their bodies were anchored with concrete blocks and dumped overboard of their speedboat north of Miami. They get caught. He goes to trial, and he was sentenced to life in prison. He only served 17 years, and somehow he gets out. Why? Because he's Murph the Surf, and he found God, and everybody fell for his new shtick, the born-again Christian with a new vocation, preaching to prison inmates. He became a television evangelist. He appeared with celebrities all over. He was once at a prayer breakfast with President Ronald Reagan, this double murderer. He became a good friend of Roger Staubach, the Cowboys quarterback. So, I don't know. Obviously, a pretty incredible life, but not a not one that should allow you to be celebrated as he was. And it made me think of how in our culture, and this shows how far back it goes, that for a lot of people, including media and the people who then ingest that media, it doesn't matter a lot if you're famous or you're infamous, famous or infamous. It doesn't matter, good or bad. If you're good copy, if there's something about you, even if it's only a glib tongue and good looks, you can be a star. You can sit with presidents and football Hall of Famers. You can get out of jail even though you had a life sentence if you're Murph the Surf. Jack Murphy. Anyway, it's over now. He's dead. He died at the age of 83. Okay. Born in California, his family moved to Pittsburgh or McKeesport or whatever when he was, in his teenage years. So it wasn't that he was here long, but he was here long enough to apparently play the violin in the Pittsburgh Symphony and get a scholarship to Pitt. Go figure. Anyway, so there I was bemoaning that some people get famous for being horrible human beings, really. And there I am proving it because it's good copy. Okay. What we got going here today? Let me see. Oh, so some states are still having their primaries. Delaware had a primary yesterday. And unsurprisingly, the Democratic incumbent senator, Chris Coons, easily won the Democratic nomination. But the Republicans, the Republican who will run against Coons was not the Republican that the party wanted to win. Their candidate fell quite badly to a woman named Lauren Witzke, who won the Republican Delaware primary for Senate by 57% of the vote. And what makes this remarkable is that this is a woman who is full-on QAnon. Bringing to how many? Is anybody keeping? Okay, she is the second QAnon supporter to win a Republican Senate primary. The other being in Oregon, a woman named Jo Ray Perkins is the Republican nominee for Senate, QAnon. Now, what's interesting, and think of the other QAnon woman we're aware of that's in, going to be in the Congress because the Democrat actually dropped out. 3 women, all subscribing to the insanity of QAnon and representing the Republican Party. I'm sure the Republicans should be so proud. Let's remind you again about QAnon, because Dana Milbank has a piece today. And I'll just read his first few paragraphs. He says, from an objective viewpoint, QAnon conspiracy theories are not exactly batting 1,000. For instance, it does not appear to have been true. So listen, these are the things they believe. It does not appear to be true that John F. Kennedy Jr. faked his death in that airplane crash, remember? Faked his death and masqueraded as a bearded Trump supporter named Vincent Fusca. So, why? So that he could reveal his true identity at President Trump's 4th of July celebration, where he would then replace Vice President Pence as Trump's running mate. That's just one of the QAnon conspiracy theories that are out there. John F. Kennedy Jr. faked his death, became this Republican Fusca, and actually he was to be Trump's. And people believe that. Didn't happen. I would have known about that. It would have been covered if John F. Kennedy Jr. showed up at the 4th of July celebration and became Trump's running mate. Okay, so that's one. Here's another. A guy named Austin Steinbart, who a lot of people once believed to be the guy who started QAnon. He's believed to be QAnon, anonymous, Q. So this guy, Austin Steinbart, was believed to be Q, and that he had this amazing prophetic ability to understand the inner workings of the government because there's a reason, because he received messages from his future self through quantum computing. Mm-hmm. Oh, boy. Well, Steinbart was recently jailed for violating the terms of his pre-trial release on extortion charges. And at the time he was jailed, he had in his possession a prosthetic penis called a Wizinator, which is something that is used, believe it or not, for falsifying drug tests. Another QAnon conspiracy theory, and remember, the people who believe this crap are going to be in the Congress of the United States, and the Republican voters are voting for them from sea to shining sea. They believe Hillary Clinton was imprisoned in October of 2017, as Q had said would happen. That she was arrested, and the one we think is Hillary Clinton walking around today is a clone. Yeah, QAnon. They think North Korea's Kim Jong-un is a CIA agent, and that people like you liberals, are drinking something called adrenochrome, which we make by getting blood of children that are held as in the pedophile rings that our elites run. You know, Tom Hanks and the Dalai Lama and Barack Obama. So, what I told you yesterday about, this Michael Caputo guy saying, that he has to fear for his life and they're going to kill him and go get ammo because this administration, the Trump administration and this Trump Republican Party is so filled with deranged, literally deranged humanity. And what is frightening is it's not Trump anymore. It's these people. Trump's one guy. There's millions of these people. And this has been going on for a long time. Anybody who has been, paying any attention at all to the right-wing AM radio for the last 20, 30 years has heard this craziness. But it's been ratcheted up to a point at which you do have to question the sanity of a frightening percentage of our fellow citizens. Rush Limbaugh the other day, just so you know, this is still going. This right-wing propaganda cabal, Fox News, Limbaugh, and all the other right-wingers, the whole AM dial, okay? Limbaugh was telling his audience on Friday, and I want you to know this because this helps explain in some ways that these guys have pretty much a script. They have talking points. They agree upon how they're going to create this alternative reality and then repeat it and repeat it and repeat it to their brainwashed listeners. So he's talking about the fires on the West Coast. And he pivots to climate change. And he says this: environmental wackos want man to be responsible for the fires, because they want to control your behavior. They want to convince you that your lifestyle choices are the reason why all these fires are firing up out on the left coast. This idea that global warming, climate change, is a hoax designed to allow the left to then force people into a certain lifestyle and to make them feel guilty, right? A few hours later, Friday, Tucker Carlson is on Fox News, and he's giving them the same story. Quote, in the hands of Democratic politicians, climate change is like systemic racism in the sky. You can't see it, but rest assured it's everywhere. And it's deadly. And it's your fault. So that's getting to Democratic talking points: systemic racism and global climate change in one or two sentences. These are both Democratic conspiracy theories designed to allow them to control these poor people, to make them feel guilty, to make them feel like they're bad people. It's their behavior that's creating all of this trouble. Mark Levin, later, same day, right-wing radio host. Quote, they want to talk man-made climate change because out of this, they want to control you. It's just like the race stuff, systemic racist. Well, what do you want to do about it? Control you, beat you down. You need to change your lifestyle. You need to confess to something. And so now they're also starting to peddle that it is left-wingers that are setting these fires, right? I mentioned this yesterday. And that's being done because it helps to play into Trump's, what Trump's trying to spread, that somehow the left is responsible for all of the violence that is going on, the horror of the violence in America's cities, which is something they've just made up. The horror of these fires, they're actually putting it on us. And here's an interesting little fact after watching, and listening to these guys trying to blame California and these Democratic states for not handling their forests well, so that this is what you get. You got to clean the floor, says our president. You got to sweep up these leaves. Here's the reality. The state of California owns all of 3% of the forest land in California. The state owns 3%. The federal government, that'd be the responsibility of Donald Trump, owns 58%. 58% of California's forests that are burning. The majority, the vast majority, the state owns 3%, and the rest is held privately. Look it up. God. Oh, dear. So, I mentioned Caputo before. So he's apparently thinking, he's apologized. He's thinking about taking medical leave, not because he's clearly bonkers, but no, he made very clear for physical medical issues that he's been dealing with. Yeah, right. So I guess what he did was just a bridge too far for even the Trump people, because they made him apologize and maybe are forcing him, to go away for a bit. Oh my! What else we got here? I have nothing happy, guys. I can't help myself. The happiest I got was Murph the Surf, I think. I don't think I got anything else here. And you're being remarkably quiet today. Not complaining. I'm just noting it. Charles Blow writes for the New York Times. The other day, this is not from today, I've cut it out a while ago. He started a column essentially asking, you know what, I'm sure we've all asked at some point. I know I, as a child, would be so troubled by this question. And then as a young adult, I'd be so troubled by this question. And now I'm still troubled by this question. And we have talked about it before, but I'll read what he says. He says, I have often wondered how major world tragedies and horrors were allowed to unfold. Where were all the good people? Where were the good people who should have objected, who should have done something? How did life simply go on with horror in their midst? And he brings up examples. You have them. For heaven's sake, slavery, hundreds and hundreds of years, right in front of everybody. Yeah. The Holocaust. Rwanda. Darfur. How could these things happen? And people knew, and nobody did anything. And then he says, well, we don't have to wonder anymore. Because it turns out that our present day is providing the unsettling answer to how could this have happened? The unsettling answer is, it was easy. It was ridiculously easy. Now we see that a semblance of normalcy, that life can go on while horrible events are unfolding. And, you know, he goes on to, again, in case you can't think of what's he talking about. Well, 200,000 Americans have died. I want to talk to you about that, by the way, because I'm seeing more and more people saying that we're already immune to these numbers. And I think that's true. 200,000. It doesn't matter how many multiples of the Vietnam casualty toll that is. It doesn't. We're not reacting. I think we can see now. And I mean, I hate to be proven correct, but when this started and they were throwing, even Fauci was throwing around this number, we could see, I think he started with 40 and then he said 60,000. Jesus, 60,000 dead from this. And I remember saying, it's going to be 250,000 dead. And you know what? it's going to be 250,000 dead by the time we get to the election. 250,000 Americans. Probably half, easily half of whom, maybe more, did not need to die, but for the total dereliction of responsibility and duty of this administration. The climate crisis, he mentions, storms getting stronger, droughts severe, rivers flooding, sea levels rising, glaciers melting, and China has set up concentration camps. We know this, but we still buy cheap Chinese goods that these slave laborers in these camps are producing. As Charles Blow says, the world does little. Oh, yeah, we note it. I know there's those camps. Just like people might have known there were concentration camps in Germany, in Poland. But that doesn't keep us from living our lives. We look away, life goes on. And so he says this is how horror happens. In full sight. And people with full knowledge. Do not revolt. They might think, well, it's far away. It's not anything. Or it's too big. I have no power. What am I supposed to do? He says we think provincially small. We have a very small focus. We tighten our focus. Parochially, concerned with our own, my own family, my own house. Not anybody else. But back to his words, the result is that evil rampages. And if you do not complain or protest, you condone. Do not think that the evil will stop at your gate, that it will not trample your garden. And then his plea. Don't let history record this moment as it has recorded too many others. A time when good people did too little to confront the wickedness and disaster. And then he reminds us of the Edmund Burke quote. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. I have a caller. Caller, go ahead, please.
Hi, Lynn. How you doing?
I'm okay, thank you.
You're talking about them radio people, and there's a station in Johnstown that their lineup is Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, and Levin.
Mm-hmm.
All day, all long.
Yeah. There's a million stations like that. That's what they do. Let me tell you, they get those are all syndicated shows. The station pays next to nothing for them. It's the easiest way to have a radio station where you pay no you have no labor. You just got one person, sitting in a room pushing a button every once in a while, and you still sell advertising.
Yeah, you got the producer, and that's it.
No, it's not a producer here because all those shows are produced and then sent to these stations. All totally done. It's all of a package, so that that station in Johnstown, they just need a salesperson or two to sell advertising during these shows that they do not produce, and that they don't pay a hell of a lot for. They do not. They do not. It's a cheap way to make money as a station owner and to help destroy the country.
And Lynn, did you ever wonder about those people I just mentioned, how they can sit down in their room and wherever they are and come up with these stories? And how do they do that? Have they no conscience?
Well, you answer that for me. No. They're doing business. They might, in fact, even agree with what these people are peddling. It's good for business.
You remember the guy who said, "I'm addicted to prescription drugs"? Limbaugh.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, took him off the air for 30 days, and now there he is back, getting the Medal of Honor, Freedom, Presidential Honor of Freedom. Are you kidding me?
Well, if you were Donald Trump, you would, because he's been creating your base for years, whipping them up, feeding them crap, messing with their heads. Well,
sometimes people, you just wonder, you listen to what they say and you think, do you really believe that?
It's amazing. It's amazing.
All right, Lynn, I want to leave you with something, all right?
Okay.
I walked into a bar the other day and I asked the bartender to give me a double. And he walked into the back room and he brought a guy out that looked just like me.
You're out of here.
Come
Both of you.
on.
Bye. Allison writes, I never listened to AM radio. I didn't realize Limbaugh was back on the... Oh, yeah. I have a physical aversion to Fox News. Just mentioning Limbaugh's name now makes me think of him receiving the Medal of Honor from Trump. These hate mongers just sicken me. But I understand now how these people in Oregon are not leaving their homes in order to protect their homes from the looters and thugs they imagine are coming. Yeah, they're told this by people they trust. They've listened to, they've let into their living rooms for years. Yeah. Allison says, I still can't wrap my head around it, but I do understand it a bit more. Come to think of it now, about half of this country sickens me. Well, it scares me. Yeah. And you know what? They're scared of us. God almighty. Oh, Milton, my gosh. Good for you, buddy. Milton has come up with 5 6-word whatever stories, descriptions of these times that we live in. I'll do them as they come, Milton. Here. Oh, yeah. Traditional Sunday dinner for one. Again. Oh, I can relate. And here's one about Murph the Surf. He'd mastered violin, but chose larceny. You're good at this. I'm not. I could never do a haiku either. Yeah. Here's one. Pulled over for speeding. Death ensued. Yeah. Here's another. Jews and blacks. White America's fall guy. Fall guys. Well, if you had more than 6 words, you would have had all the immigrants, right? Gays, whatever. Yeah. We can't do them all. All the ones that are going to be blamed, marginalized, and not make it into their wonderful utopia they think they're building. And this taking a swipe at Trump and clean the forest floor, Milton comes up with, despite the cleaned floor, Inferno's rage. Love it, Milton. Good for you. You took the challenge. I have another caller. Go ahead, please.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Lynn. Hey, you positive towards election, you know that. So this is not nothing to do with election, but I think we're setting up for the fall, for failure when it comes to coronavirus. The loosey-goosey, just not wearing masks, just what I see.
Yeah.
We have construction here. We have these guys putting gas lines in. Not one of them wears a mask. Then you have the Columbia Gas guy coming. He don't have a mask. They're like 2 feet apart, even closer. It's like they're not taking it serious. So come whenever it kicks up, it's going to be bad because they just not taking it serious. And I'm ashamed of this country that they're such babies that they can't wear a mask and maybe not go to church or maybe not do this just for a little while, people. That's all it takes. But nah, not in this country because they don't want to sacrifice nothing.
Well, it would have been a little while, but now they're making it. We'll never get out of this. And the thing is, they're being asked to do a little sacrifice, right? A little sacrifice for the common good, and they go insane.
Yeah, it's a baby, and the guy that's running the whole show is a baby, so they're babies too, following them. That's just what it is. It's a shame, but I'm really concerned about it come fall. I think we should all be. Cold symptoms, and they'll overflood the ER. Yeah. Then they'll go to the doctors because they think they have corona. It's just going to be a friggin' mess. What are you going to do? Hate to give some negative news.
Now there's the old guy. There you are. That's the guy I remember. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, you.
All right. See you later.
Bye. Bye. Oh, dear. Okay, what we got? Father Joseph writes, Lynn, by law, the outgoing president can seal his or her records for 12 years. It is illegal. I didn't know that. Well, how can, their records. They can't do things that would be belong to all of us, right? I don't know. It is someday, Father Joseph, I'm going to read one of your emails and not interrupt it, okay? This is not the day. Back to Father Joseph. It is illegal for a president to destroy records. If Trump loses this election, I think the race will be on to destroy records, while the agencies responsible for retaining them will look the other way until after the inauguration. If Trump wins, oh God, please perish the thought, come on. If Trump wins, we're kiss it goodbye. We're gone. It's over. If Trump wins, I don't think the records will matter. Nothing will, because we may face a struggle to retain 2 term limits, No, it's over then. If that occurs, this will be a very long journey for our country. It'll be over. This is beyond imagining years ago, but then so was the possibility of a President Trump. Yikes. Yeah, listen, Father Joseph, if Trump wins, it's over. It's over. What would these people do with 4 more years? What would they do? And I can't even imagine. And that, that sort of sense, I'm too old, so I just stay, but that sense that I would want my child or younger people to just get out of here, literally get the hell out of here. But nobody wants us, at least if the pandemic's still going. And since Trump and his people are just determined to show people that they don't need to do anything to mitigate the spread, Americans are not going to be able to travel anywhere. We'll know what it's like to be on a ship like the St. Louis that was filled with desperate refugees from Germany, women and children, desperate, trying to escape the Nazi killing machine, and we turned them away. Not because they were carrying any pestilence. Well, to some it was, but because they were undesirable. They were Jews. Well, we're all going to know what that feels like, maybe. God, stop! Excuse me, I was screaming at myself. I was screaming at me. I'm sorry. Real quick, getting in these emails that just came in, and then I'm going to have to go. Keith writes, speaking of hoaxes, am I the only one who is starting to believe Limbaugh's alleged lung cancer is a hoax? Yeah, is it lung cancer? It was stage 4. He's going strong, isn't he? Too mean to die, maybe. I don't know. Guy was diagnosed 9 months ago, still has the breast support to do talk for 3 hours a day. Not even it doesn't make sense to me either. My grandmother died of mesothelioma and spent her remaining months hooked up to tubes. Yeah, I agree. Doesn't make sense. Wow. Little Tony says, Lynn, I always liked local talk radio. Yeah, it was good for a while there. What did we know? Those were the good old days. Remember when local talk radio was so good? I could never stand syndicated shows and never listen to them. They suck. Yeah, we had a good little run there. And like so many things, when we're in the midst of it, we don't know that we're in the good old days. Yeah. Well, lucky to have had them. Thank you all. And I guess that's it. Sorry. I don't know why I'm so sort of all of a sudden unwilling to leave, but I'm going to go. Hang in there. Hang in there. Dear God, be well. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.